I want you to imagine just for a second being taken prisoner by a conquering king.
Right, which is not exactly an ideal situation.
No, not at all. You are ripped from your home, your entire life is just completely upended, and you are forced to march with an invading army across a continent.
It's terrifying to even think about.
Yeah. Now, most people in that situation would probably just, I don't know, rot in a cell somewhere, or maybe spend every waking second plotting some kind of elaborate revenge.
Which, would be completely understandable.
Oh, absolutely. But not the guy we're looking at today. Instead of doing any of that, he uses his time as a captive, literally marching in the dust with this invading army, to basically invent modern anthropology.
Yeah, and that's not even all of it.
Right. He also calculates the true radius of the Earth and accurately predicts the existence of the Americas.
Oh, and just as a reminder, he did all of this in the 11th century.
It is just a staggering level of intellectual output, and produced under what has to be the most stressful and, frankly, humiliating conditions imaginable.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So today's deep dive is a biographical exploration of one of the Islamic Golden Age's most brilliant, yet surprisingly under-the-radar polymaths. His name is Abu Rayhan Al-Biruni, and he was born around the year 973.
And our mission today is to explore how this man, who was literally born on the outskirts of an empire, became this captive scholar who managed to bridge the gap between reason and religion.
Right, and between completely warring cultures.
Exactly. He left behind a legacy that was, well, almost lost to history entirely.
Yeah, and we are going to see how his absolute, unwavering commitment to impartial truth can actually teach you a lot about navigating our own modern era of information overload.
It's super relevant.
So let's start with the world he was actually born into. Where are we geographically?
Well, we are in a region called Khwarizm, which is in modern-day Uzbekistan.
Okay.
And it's actually incredibly fitting that you mentioned his commitment to truth from the margins, because his very name, Biruni, derives from the Persian word for outskirts.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, he was born in an outlying district of the capital, but he absolutely did not stay on the intellectual outskirts for long, because by the time he was a young man, he was a true polyglot.
Okay, when you say polyglot, how many languages are we talking about here?
So he was fluent in Khwarizmian, Persian, Arabic, Sanskrit, Greek, Hebrew, and Syriac.
Wow. I mean, in the 11th century, having access to all those languages is essentially the equivalent of having a fiber optic connection to the entire world's database of knowledge.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
You could just read the original texts of almost every major civilization.
That is exactly what it was. Language was his master key to accessing completely different worldviews.
Right.
So he spends his early 20s absorbing just about every science available. Jurisprudence, theology, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, you name it.
Just a sponge for information.
Basically, yeah. But the turning point of his life, the moment his trajectory violently fractures, happens in the year 1017.
So what exactly goes down in 1017?
Well, a powerful conqueror named Mahmud of Ghazni captures Biruni's city. And Mahmud wasn't just taking land or gold, right? He was taking talent.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, Biruni, along with a bunch of other brilliant scholars, was taken as a captive back to Mahmud's capital, Ghazni, which is in modern-day Afghanistan.
Man, that feels like a corporate hostile takeover. But instead of the rival CEO just, absorbing the company's patents and real estate, he literally kidnaps all the smartest engineers.
Yeah, drags them across the world.
Exactly, and just forces them to work at the new headquarters.
That is a remarkably accurate way to look at it, honestly. And this forced relocation wasn't just a change of scenery. It pushed Biruni into a highly influential, yet deeply ironic, new day job.
Which was what?
Mahmud of Ghazni appointed Biruni as his court astrologer.
Wait, hold on. A genius who just spent his 20s mastering actual mathematics and medicine is forced to read horoscopes to pay the bills.
Yep.
How does he even balance serving the Sultan with his own scientific integrity? Because a mind like that must have seen right through astrology.
Oh, he absolutely did. He viewed astrology as an outright pseudoscience.
I figured.
Yeah, in his writings, he explicitly compartmentalized his life. He separated his foundation in hard geometry and arithmetic from the prognostication he was forced to do for the Sultan.
He kept the real science completely separate.
Exactly. And later in his life, he actually wrote a comprehensive refutation of astrology, just arguing that its methods were completely devoid of empiricism.
Okay, so he does his day job to stay alive, but his real passion stays with the actual science of the stars.
Yes. Out of the roughly 146 books he wrote in his lifetime, 95 of them were devoted to astronomy, mathematics, and related subjects.
That is insane.
And his astronomical achievements were genuinely groundbreaking. For example, in his major astronomical work, he rigorously observed the sun's apogee.
Which is its highest point in the heavens.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what did he find?
Well, he found that the apogee was actually mobile. It drifted.
Oh, wow. Now, that might sound like a minor technical detail to us today, but you have to understand the context. The ancient Greek astronomer Ptolemy had declared that the apogee was fixed.
And Ptolemy was like the unquestioned authority at the time.
Right. The prevailing belief was that the heavens were this perfect, unchanging system of fixed spheres.
Ah, so by proving that the highest point actually moves, Biruni is just shattering this thousands of years old dogma about the universe being a static, perfect machine.
Yes.
He's saying, no, I've measured it, and the heavens are dynamic.
Precisely. And he didn't stop at challenging Ptolemy either. He also wrote a treatise exploring the theory of the Earth's rotation.
Wait, really? In the 11th century?
Yeah.
But people back then firmly believed the Earth was the unmoving center of the universe. If you suggested the Earth was spinning, wouldn't people just ask, well, why don't we feel a massive wind?
Yeah.
Or like, why doesn't a bird flying in the air get left behind by the ground moving underneath it?
Those were exactly the arguments used against the Earth rotating. Now, the specific book where Biruni addressed this is unfortunately lost to history. But we do know from his surviving writings how he defended the concept.
How did he do it?
He stated that the rotation of the Earth would in no way impair the mathematical value of astronomy. He argued that all astronomical appearances, the sun rising, the stars moving across the sky.
Right, the stuff we see every day.
Yeah, that all of that could be explained just as perfectly by a rotating Earth as by a stationary one.
Okay, so he's basically laying the groundwork for relative motion.
He is.
He's willing to entertain a model that completely defies human common sense as long as the mathematics support it.
Yes. But, as fascinating as his work on the heavens was, his proximity to the Sultan meant he couldn't just stay locked in an observatory all day.
Because he was still a captive employee.
Right. As a court astrologer, he was forced to accompany Mahmud on his brutal military campaigns into India.
Oh, wow.
And this journey completely shifts his focus from the stars above to the people down below.
Let's talk about those invasions. If he's traveling with an invading army, what exactly is he witnessing?
I mean, he is witnessing immense trauma and destruction. Mahmud's armies were brutally attacking Hindu cities.
That's awful.
Yeah, they were systematically destroying temples, taking slaves, and just claiming plunder. It was a terrifying period for the local population.
Which makes his next move so unbelievable to me. He's embedded with the invading force, surrounded by soldiers claiming all these glorious victories for the Sultan.
Right.
And Biruni decides to just completely ignore the military history of his patron. Instead, he turns his attention to the victims.
Exactly.
He documents the civilian, scholarly, and religious life of the Hindus, creating this massive text called The History of India. But my question is, how does an invading captive get the people his army is actively destroying to sit down and teach him their most sacred texts?
It's a great question.
They must have viewed him as a monster,
Right.
right?
Oh, they absolutely did at first. And Biruni didn't sugarcoat that fact at all. In his writings, he displays this level of objective empathy that is just stunning for his era.
Really?
Yeah, he openly explained to his readers why the Hindus hated the Muslims. He acknowledged that the violent attacks, the destruction of holy sites, and the taking of slaves created a deep, completely justified trauma.
It's incredible that he was even allowed to write that while still employed by the guy doing the invading.
It really speaks to his unparalleled patience and his genuine desire for truth. Over time, he simply wore down the resistance of the local scholars by proving he wanted to understand them on their own terms.
He wasn't there to convert them.
Right, and he wasn't there to mock them either. He learned Sanskrit, he collected their books, he studied closely with their pundits, and he even translated texts like Patanjali's Yoga Sutras into Arabic.
So he essentially becomes the world's first anthropologist.
In many ways, yeah.
And what really strikes me is that he didn't just paint this massive, diverse culture with one broad brush. He actually took the time to separate the complex monotheistic philosophies of the educated scholars from the more uneducated polytheistic practices of the general public.
And he did it all without entirely abandoning his own worldview, which is interesting. He assumed the superiority of Islam, which, was typical for his time, but he fundamentally believed there was a common human element in every culture.
He was looking for connections.
Exactly. He thought all human societies are distant relatives. His goal was to present the theories of the Hindus exactly as they were, even comparing them to the ancient Greeks to highlight the philosophical connections.
Okay, so Biruni is embedded in India, dissecting its culture and philosophy. But he's doing this while traversing the massive peaks of the Punjab region.
Yes.
And for a mind completely obsessed with geometry, looking out from a mountaintop doesn't just offer a nice view, it offers a giant natural laboratory.
That's right.
He realizes he can use this landscape to solve an entirely different mystery, the exact size of the Earth.
Yeah, and this leads to his famous geographical experiment at a fort called Nandana in present-day Pakistan.
Okay, so how did people measure the Earth before this?
Well, before Biruni, if you wanted to measure the circumference of the Earth, the accepted method required a team of people walking vast distances across flat, open deserts, just to measure a single degree of meridian.
That sounds miserable.
It was incredibly tedious and obviously prone to tons of human error. But Biruni realized he could use a mountain instead.
Okay, stop right there. I need to picture this. How on earth does a mountain replace walking across a desert? Walk me through this geometry.
Right, it all comes down to right-angle trigonometry. Imagine you are standing at the very top of a mountain looking out over a completely flat plain.
Okay, I'm there.
If you look straight ahead, perfectly horizontal, your line of sight just goes out into space. But the Earth is a sphere, so it curves away from you. To see the actual horizon, like the edge of the Earth where it meets the sky, you have to look very slightly down.
Okay, I'm with you.
That tiny downward angle is called the angle of dip.
Got it.
So Biruni first meticulously calculated the exact vertical height of the mountain he was standing on. Then he used an astrolabe, which is a specialized astronomical instrument, to measure that exact angle of dip down to the horizon.
Okay.
Now think of the invisible lines he just drew. You have a line from his eye down the mountain to the center of the Earth. You have a line from his eye to the horizon. And you have a line from the horizon back to the center of the Earth.
Oh, wow. It's a massive planetary scale triangle.
Exactly. And because he knows the height of the mountain and he knows the angle of the dip, he can use basic trigonometric formulas to calculate the length of that line from the surface to the core.
That is just brilliant.
Yeah, he calculated the radius of the entire globe.
You just stand in one place, look down a tiny bit, do some math, and you've measured the planet. How accurate was his number?
He calculated the radius to be roughly 3,928 miles.
Yeah.
Which is only about 2% off from our highly precise modern measurement.
2% in the 11th century.
Yeah. And the only reason he was even 2% off is because he wasn't aware of a phenomenon called atmospheric refraction.
Which is what, exactly?
It's the way the Earth's atmosphere bends light. That bending slightly alters where the visual horizon appears to be, compared to where the physical horizon actually is.
Oh, interesting.
If Biruni had known to mathematically correct for that bent light, his number would have been near perfect.
That is wild. But having the size of the Earth wasn't enough for him, was it? He takes that calculation, and he uses it to basically predict the existence of the Americas centuries before Columbus ever set sail.
Yeah, this is where his logical deduction just becomes an absolute masterclass.
Tell me about it.
In a text called the Codex Masuticus, he took his highly accurate estimation of the Earth's total circumference. Then he calculated the known size of the land masses, Eurasia and Africa. He realized that all the known land in the world only covered about 2/5 of the Earth's surface.
Man, it's like doing a massive jigsaw puzzle, realizing you only have 40% of the pieces, and being able to perfectly describe the image on the missing 60% just by looking at the empty space on the table.
Exactly.
But how did he know it wasn't just endless ocean out there?
Well, he reasoned through universal geology. He argued that the immense geological processes that gave rise to the mountains and valleys of Eurasia must be universal forces.
So they would happen everywhere.
Right. Therefore, they must have also pushed up lands in that vast, empty ocean. And he went even further by looking at the latitudes.
What do you mean?
He mapped out which specific latitudes supported human life in the known world,
Oh.
and theorized that this unknown landmass must lie within those exact same habitable zones.
Oh, wow.
And if it has the same climate, he concluded, it must be inhabited by humans.
He figures out there are populated continents across the ocean just by trusting the math. He literally never got on a boat.
Yeah.
But what really fascinates me is that this intense commitment to rigorous, verifiable truth didn't stop at physical geography. He applied this exact same standard to theology and history.
He did.
And when you mix uncompromising math with deeply held religious beliefs, you usually make some pretty powerful enemies.
You definitely do. And this brings us to his famous, highly heated letter correspondence with another titan of the Islamic Golden Age, the philosopher Avicenna.
Oh, wow. So you have these two massive intellects just going at it. What was the core of their fight?
Well, they were debating the fundamental origin of the universe. Avicenna, who was heavily influenced by ancient Greek philosophy, specifically Aristotle, argued for an eternal universe.
Meaning it had just always been there.
Exactly. He believed the universe had always existed. Biruni, on the other hand, vehemently defended the Sunni Orthodox position that the universe had a definitive beginning, that it was created out of nothing, a concept known as creatio ex nihilo.
But knowing Biruni, I'm guessing he didn't just, yell scripture at Avicenna.
No, and that is what makes Biruni so unique. He used Aristotle's own logic to dismantle Avicenna's argument.
Oh, using his own weapons against him.
Exactly. He argued based on cause and effect. If the universe is eternal and completely unchanging in its basic existence, it basically negates the logical need for a creator.
Because there's no creation event.
Right. A creator implies an action, a change from non-existence to existence. Biruni was deeply proud of the fact that he followed the textual evidence of his religion without being blindly influenced by the Greeks.
And he used that same scientific logic to test religious traditions too, right? Because there is an incredible story about him fact-checking a famous hadith, which is a recorded saying or tradition in Islam, about fasting on the day of Ashura.
Yes. There was this widely circulated tradition suggesting that the Prophet Muhammad fasted on the 10th of the Islamic month of Muharram, a day known as Ashura, specifically because it historically coincided with the Jewish Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur.
But Biruni doesn't just accept the tradition because everyone else does. He runs the numbers.
He ran the astronomical and historical calculations. See, the Islamic calendar is strictly lunar, which is about 354 days long.
Okay.
But the Jewish calendar is lunisolar. It actually adds leap months to stay tied to the solar seasons.
Ah, I see. It's like trying to sync a calendar that skips leap years with a standard clock. Over time, the dates are just going to drift completely out of alignment.
Exactly. You can't just assume date X matched date Y a decade ago.
Right.
So Biruni calculated backwards. He proved mathematically that in the second year of the Hijra, the specific year in question, the 10th of Muharram could not possibly have coincided with the 10th of Tishri, which is Yom Kippur.
The celestial mechanics simply didn't line up.
Not at all. Therefore, he concluded, the historical premise of that specific hadith was mathematically flawed.
I mean, just think about how dangerous it is to tell your society that a widely accepted religious tradition is mathematically impossible. In the 11th century, that sounds like a very quick way to be labeled a heretic.
It does. But it raises a vital point about Biruni's worldview. He was a devout Muslim, but as a critical thinker, he believed in the synthesis of aql, which is reason or intellect, and naql, which is transmitted tradition or revelation.
He didn't see them as enemies.
Not at all. For Biruni, the two had to align perfectly. God's universe and God's word could not contradict each other.
Makes sense.
If a humanly transmitted tradition contradicted verifiable mathematical science, then it was the human transmission that was flawed, not the science.
It is an astonishingly modern way of looking at the world. I mean, he synthesizes geology, anthropology, astrophysics, and theology into one coherent framework where everything has to hold up to the light of evidence.
Yeah, it really did.
So after a lifetime of redefining human knowledge under extreme duress, what actually happened to all of his work after he died?
Tragically, it almost vanished completely. Al-Biruni died around the year 1050 in his late 70s, and for centuries following his death, his work was largely ignored. Yet it wasn't built upon or heavily referenced by later scholars in the way that, say, Avicenna's philosophy was.
Why do you think that happened? Was the math just too dense for people to follow?
That was definitely a significant part of it. His work was highly technical and required a deep understanding of multiple complex disciplines.
That narrows the audience a bit.
For sure. But perhaps more importantly, his uncompromising objectivity, especially his deeply empathetic writings on Hindu culture, it simply didn't fit neatly into the political or religious narratives of the empires that followed him.
It was too unbiased for a very biased world.
Exactly. It wasn't until about 800 years later, during the British Raj in India, that Western scholars rediscovered his writings and fully realized the magnitude of what they were looking at.
They realized this 800-year-old text was actually more objective and empathetic than the anthropology being written in their own time.
Yep.
But he's finally received some modern recognition, hasn't he?
Oh, he certainly has. The scientific community has rightfully honored him. There is a lunar crater named after him, an asteroid that bears his name, and even an island in Antarctica.
Wow.
And if you visit the United Nations office in Vienna, you will find a scholars' pavilion in the central plaza. It features statues of prominent historic scholars, and Al-Biruni is sitting right there, taking his rightful place alongside Avicenna.
It is an incredible legacy for a guy who started his intellectual journey as a captive of war. And I want to end today by bringing this back to you, the listener. We started by picturing Biruni as a prisoner, marching with a conquering army.
Right.
One historian famously described Biruni's work on India as a magic island of quiet, impartial research in the midst of a world of clashing swords, burning towns, and plundered temples.
That's a beautiful quote.
It really is. Biruni was surrounded by violence, dogmatic thinking, and immense political pressure, yet he built that island of quiet by learning the languages of his supposed enemies and just seeking the objective truth.
It is a powerful contrast, especially when you think about it. He lacked the endless stream of data we just take for granted today, yet he filtered the world with far more clarity and rigor than most of us do.
Exactly. In our modern world, you have access to all the information he lacked. You have the internet, instant translation, endless data streams. But it begs a crucial question. Are you using all of this information to build bridges of understanding, the way a captive 11th century scholar did? Or are you just using it to reinforce your own borders? Next time you look up at the stars or look across the aisle at someone you disagree with, think about that captive scholar who saw a universe without boundaries. Until next time, keep diving deep.